The gray whales, the cows with their calves on their northerly migration, would literally stop here and rest and reside within the fronds of these historic kelp beds. And we would sit here as kids and just marvel in that. It was spectacular. They were right there.
So El Niños have been really common in our system. They used to happen regularly, about every 10 years. And 1983 was a really, really large El Niño in California, which also caused what you might expect. It caused the loss of kelp.
The swells were really large, and whereas oftentimes during the winter the canopy and stuff would get torn out, this tore out all those big giant holdfasts, which were several meters across.
Kelp restoration is kind of all the rage right now. It's relatively new. Restoring ecosystems off the coast in the ocean, it's not that easy, and it's not that cheap.
People ask me all the time, has the kelp changed? I go, yeah, it changes all the time. It changes every day.
Do we actually have a problem? Or are we looking at too narrow of a time window and we think we have a problem, but if we were 100 years old, or if we were someone who's been in those kelp forests for the last 50 years, would say, this is not a problem. This has happened before.
Well, it's maybe never happened in their lifetime, but I would think it's foolish to think it's never happened before, you know? And it's come back, right? It may not come back soon enough for certain people, and they want to do something about it. And, you know, that's a decision. It takes money. Taxpayers, if that's how they want to spend their money, or NGOs want to spend their private funds to do something, and they're not hurting the environment.
We know people are passionate about this. We know that people want to get in the water and they want to do something. In some cases, they've lost their livelihoods. In other cases, they've seen their places that are culturally very important to them really change.
If we didn't cause it, you know, let it go, right? But I'm not the guy with the dive shop that is counting on all the divers. And so his values are certainly as valid as mine.
I'm Bob Keel. I've been interested in the sand-dwelling kelp issue for quite a number of decades now. It went away because of a natural event. It's failing to recover because of things we humans have done. We've created imbalance in the ecosystem through the harvesting of various types of marine life that keep balance out there. Because I've been in, on, and under the ocean my whole life, especially this area, I've continued to do my own personal research and investigations into the issue, and that's what led me to where we are today. What I'm proposing now in our pilot study out here is to try embedding vitrified clay cylinders that have a lid on them, and we embed them into the seafloor to provide refuge for two-spot octopus.
They're trying to restore a sand-based kelp bed by putting in these columns and stuff. And what they're finding on these columns is that crabs will get in there and stuff. So they're making things for octopus, maybe to eat the crabs. I applaud those guys, right? I mean, they're just spending their own resources to really, you know, they're really committed to trying to bring the kelp forest back, right? I don't think that there's enough. I mean, I would love to see more quantitative data.
A lot of this is anecdotal. You know, we haven't performed studies where we're doing statistical analysis and making charts and graphs. The cost of scientific analysis is significant. The research institution once quoted me at $50,000 a year for a researcher, a grad student. We simply don't have the time or the resources to perform those studies. A lot of the grants that we've applied for, they were all awarded to researchers. They're really not designed for people like myself. Where do you get the sources of funding to cover these independent scientific studies or analysis of the pilot projects that people want to do out here, whether it's mine or anybody else's?
The thing about facing huge environmental problems, especially when they're big in scale, like the loss of kelp, across big portions of California, is it's really expensive. Science is actually expensive too, to get the answers to help guide some of the on-the-ground efforts. And so we're constantly, all of us, out there looking for funding to be able to do these efforts, whether it's in the water restoration or whether it's science.
We have to pay for boats, we have to pay for everything, right? Well, who's gonna pay for that? I can't work for free any more than fishermen work for free, right? We all need to make a living somehow. So I guess I would say to Bob, he's not alone, right? That's the climate that we live in, particularly in California.
Yeah, they're barking up the wrong tree. They need to just forget about all of it. Forget about going to the federal government, asking the school, just forget about it. Go open your own lemonade stand. My name is Chris Goldblatt. I am the founder and chief executive officer of the Fish Reef Project based here in Santa Barbara, California. A sea cave is a unique invention. It was a series of educated trial and error. It's essentially a 1 ton or 1,000 kilogram unit. It has to be made just right so the kelp can land and grow on it and grow its hold fast and become big and strong and live its whole life cycle. So it's kind of a force multiplier for the marine community. So it's a really good way to unlimit the ocean in that sense. So it's creating more of an unlimited situation to keep pace with the impacts of mankind, really. The question is, how are you going to pay for this, right? I come from an entrepreneurial background where it's sink or swim, sink or swim. So I want to encourage innovators to think outside the box and to really look at how is their project not only benefiting the marine environment, but benefiting sort of the mercantile nature of mankind. How can humans outside of their project, who maybe don't even care about the benefit of the project, leverage it to generate revenue for themselves?
My name is Jeff Mawson, and I am a sea urchin dive harvester, currently based out of Santa Barbara, California. Well, I'm not really sure about the university's approach because there's little to no outreach to the local commercial fishing community to acknowledge the problem of the lack of kelp, to acknowledge global warming, to utilize and collaborate with us in order to maintain and restore these impacted habitats. I see it being degrading further to the point where you won't be able to go to the beach and cast a rod out and catch a fish, I think they're just letting it go. I'd really like to see the university step up to the plate. It's time to elevate it to another level in terms of being more proactive and putting the boots on the ground rather than the researchers in the water. And otherwise, it could be gone forever, and we could monitor it, we can research it and monitor it, but let's do something as a last-ditch effort, because it may already be too late.
My name is Steve Gaines, and I'm the Dean of the Bren School of Environmental Science and Management at UCSB. Oftentimes there are proposed solutions where there's some big uncertainty as to whether, one, is it going to work, two, is it going to have unintended consequences, and so the last thing I think we really want to do in a lot of these situations is jump on a solution that could have really big negative consequences that we weren't anticipating without really exploring that first.
You can go ahead and maximize the amount of stuff you do and minimize the amount of information you learn from it, which in the end, if it works, great, but then you don't really know why it worked, right? If it doesn't work, you don't know why it doesn't work.
So my lab focuses primarily on trying to throw some science at the kelp restoration problems. We're trying to focus all that energy into places and times and techniques that might be more likely to work.
But the last thing you'd want to do is go do that experiment in 50 different places at the same time in the beginning and then decide, oh, after you do this, if we would have done it in a slightly different way, we could have actually had more positive effects without causing all of these unintended consequences.
So the kelp forest ecosystems are complex, and restoring them are going to be complex too. And you have to look at all aspects of the system. And if you don't look at the system as a whole, you'll never be able to bring back kelp.
The more we learn through science, the more questions it produces, right? We start to realize that we live in a very complex world, and we reveal that complexity through research, through pilot studies. So this is just another one we have to do. We know enough now, and I'm running out of time.
At what point does research cannibalize either itself or entrepreneurship? And unfortunately, I have seen that. Unless there's a chance for transference to occur, maybe we should look at things that are more transferable.
All the nitty-gritty science we're doing is good and it is important, but it's not fast enough for the environmental problems we're seeing in the ocean. I have one foot in hardcore science and I have one foot in hardcore conservation. So I'm the one who is constantly saying, come on everyone, let's get around the table. Maybe in some areas we do have enough science. And maybe you people who want to go out and do all this interventions in the ocean, maybe you're missing a really important piece of science, and I'll go do it for you, and then we'll talk.
I would love to work with some of the researchers here at UCSB, people that can provide independent analysis, perspectives that are not mine.
I think that's where scientists and can help in terms of partnering, is to, help design these projects in a way that we can actually learn something from them.
There's someone else who might be looking at something from a different angle. There's not a day that goes by that I don't ask myself, am I missing something? What are we missing?
Everybody who is involved in the kelp issues and kelp restoration wants the same outcome in the end.
We have a lot of capability within our community and within Southern California to step up to the plate and be proactive. That's what I need to see right now.
I think that the best way to break down some of the barriers to communication is to get people at the table.
And unless everybody gets around the table, another 41 plus years is going to go by, and we're going to be in the same boat. I can almost guarantee that.
We all want the same thing in the end. We want healthy, productive kelp forests.
When I'm 80, if I make it that far, and I'm standing right here, I want to look out there and I want to see a band of kelp like I used to that takes off from right about here east towards Santa Barbara. And in February, I want to see a gray whale. So there you go. I don't know if that'll happen. I think it's doable. I want to try it.